All right, I'm going to play this next clip. This is obviously in reaction to what we've seen over the past couple of days. I'm playing this clip because it's aspirational for me. It's aspirational in the sense, the other one, Beto. It's aspirational in the sense that this is the moment where we're going to see, and I think to a certain extent, we've seen Beto O'Rourke's humanity, right? Like, I think he's clearly moved by this. Yeah. This is the community he grew up in. He has a lot of attachment to it. And I think he's been clearly moved by it. And look, politicians, there's an element of politicians that I think is inescapable, that they have some distance and they can see how they're being perceived at any given time. I mean, I think to a certain extent, even doing what we do, I'm conscious that I'm on camera. I'm conscious that people are looking at me more often than not. There's a couple times I slip and, pick your nose or you do something like that. But for the most part, you're aware of it. And so I am sure
I'm breaking the third wall.
That he's also aware that this is a moment for him as a presidential candidate to show his leadership. I think it's not insincere what he's doing, but I think he's also aware of that moment.
Was it the Kaepernick thing, or remember that video of him in the church when he was running against Ted Cruz?
Yes,
so like he is good at these things.
Yes. But the other question is at this point, like, to what extent does his humanity, where he genuinely cares about this, and his understanding of the political moment make him realize that he should drop out of this presidential race and declare for the Senate? Because he is in a position now, if he didn't do it before because he didn't think he could take on John Cornyn, there's every reason to believe, particularly when you have half a dozen Republican congresspeople who are dropping out and running for re-election, so their machines are a little bit dispersed. You're going to have a lot of energy, a lot of money is going to pour into that state to take congressional seats, which is going to help you in your run for the Senate. This can help you run for the Senate. It's going to be interesting to see what he does. But in the meantime, like, what he's saying, I think is heartfelt. It's important to be said. And he could, if he believes all this, he could do far more as the first Democrat who wins in the state of Texas a Senate seat in decades by winning that seat.
And he did say white supremacy is hate and should be treated as domestic terror.
Yeah. Important for you then to say that this is the same man who called white nationalists and Klansmen and neo-Nazis very fine people, who asked for more immigrants who look like those in Sweden and Norway, the whitest places on the planet, while describing immigrants from Haiti as full of AIDS or countries in Africa as shithole nations. This is the most racist president we've had since perhaps Andrew Johnson in another age and another century. And he is responsible for the hatred and the violence that we're seeing right now. You cannot leave that just to me. To say that it's got to be you and those who are helping this country understand what is happening in our name.
I mean, the thing I like about what Beto is doing too is that he's making a critique of that goes beyond politics, right? I mean, he's making a critique, and this is a dynamic that I think has been very encouraging. We saw this during the debates. I just don't remember a time where Democratic candidates for presidency, for any position for that matter, are making they're not making a structural critique of the press. I mean, I think Bernie has done that in the past, and we've had politicians who've talked about media concentration and whatnot, but they're making an operational critique in terms of the way that things are framed and the way that they are educating the American public. And it's helpful. I mean, remember the Republicans last year, the whole thing, and they did this, they've done this many cycles where they will call out the debate moderators. And it's like, it was almost like the first one to do it during the Republican primary last time. It was like a race. But now you have them making this critique of the press, saying like, we're going to demand more of you and more fairness. And I think that's very, very important that the Democrats either begin as individuals, but reflect, I think, a change in the Democratic Party that we can question the conventional
And I think
wisdom.
that
That's my baby boy.
specifically with this, the fact that at least among the candidates, the Democratic leadership isn't there yet at all, where they need to be. But the candidates are all saying on stage, like Sanders in his closing statement said, the guy's a racist and so on. But the next pivot is to do exactly what you're saying. That is the next layer, to not just say like, yes, I'm going to come out and call him a racist and I'm not going to let him off the hook. But then I'm going to say, in some sense, how can you even be asking, like,
Right.
you're giving me a positive quote.
Right.
You're ignoring the entirety of the guy's career in politics.
Right.
And the answer is not, by the way, to talk about how we need to step up law enforcement. Bernie had a lot of good takes on this issue. That wasn't one of them. And it's a weird week when Beto's doing a little bit better than Bernie on something.
I don't know about Beto's policy prescriptions, but I'm giving him a pass from saying this shit belongs on the battlefield. So, yeah.
Battlefields don't belong anywhere.